Hey guys, Jay at Broader Performance. Okay, I'm going to try to quickly address a question we get an awful lot. People ask us, do we have a rebuild kit for a C6 or a C4 or anything? But, well, I don't really do rebuild kits anymore. Basically, the reason is, I hate to say this, but since all the COVID stuff started and all that, it's still not easy to get parts, and I'm always fighting for things, and getting an entire kit together has become a challenge these days. It really has, and honestly, when I can get the stuff together, I really have to kind of use it in-house for a rebuild, and so there's a lot of times certain things I just don't have at that moment in time. So anyways, that's one of the main reasons these kind of went away. Second reason it went away, and probably the reason I don't know if they'll ever come back for us. But I just don't really believe in a canned rebuild kit anymore. There's so many variations in this transmission, and honestly, most of them. C6, came out in '66, and they did it until '96, and Ford likes to make changes, and putting a kit together is frustrating. You'd get a call. I'm missing an O-ring. This clutch plate doesn't fit, or I can't get my clearance, or something. It was just on, and it was really tough to have something that just worked for everybody every time. And I think we had something that was pretty close, because I actually do rebuild units. Unlike most of the suppliers out there that people buy from, they don't rebuild units, they just have what they have, and if you call them, they don't know. So, in any case, not a fan of the canned rebuild kit. If you're looking for something like that, it's out there, but you're going to be probably disappointed in it, because quite honestly, you're going to be missing a lot of stuff, and you're going to think it's complete. It's not. There's going to be things that just don't work for you. So here's what I tell people. I try to have everything that we offer listed separately on the website. And I know a lot of people, well, man, I don't want to sit there and pick this or that. And, well, I beg to differ, because I can't tell you the number of times somebody wants to buy our rebuild kit and goes, hey, I've already got a vacuum modulator. Can you take that off the kit? I only need 3 friction plates, and it looks like the kit comes with 4. Can you redo this for me? You know how frustrating that is? And it's more work for me to try to do all these custom addition subtractions to the kit, and it's just, there's no money in it. I'm going to be honest with you. There's just no money in it, and I don't really know that we're doing much good by selling you something like that, especially if you're going to chase us for nickels and dimes. I've already got 3 good thrust washers, I just need the other 6. Well, come on, guys. You're going to make us do all this work for, to save yourself $4 and cost us $20 in labor. And I hate to be negative about it, but I get frustrated with that. Everybody does. Oh, they buy the kit and then they say, hey, I didn't use these. Can I return them and get some credit back? Well, you bought it as a kit. The kit's the kit. And I'm tired of that argument. And, we try to do right by our customers, but we can only accommodate so much. So I feel it's better to list everything separately on the site that we have, and then you just pick and choose what you want and the quantity that you want. And so first of all, what I'm going to tell you is, don't buy any parts from anybody until you've torn it down. That's the best advice I can give you. Another thing that would happen is you'd get a guy, this is a pretty complete rebuild kit, right? Yep. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm going to get this and order it on Tuesday. It'll be here by Friday. I got a race on Saturday. Well, guess how pissed off this person is when they're missing one thing, or something doesn't fit and they're trying to slam something together Friday night. And that never works, by the way. That never works. I've built hundreds of these. Every time I'm missing something or something goes wrong, if you're trying to throw it together in a few hours, I'm sorry. It just, I don't even want to hear that anymore. This takes time. If you want to do it right, just accept the fact that this is going to take time. So, you know, if you don't care and you're just a hack and you want to throw something together and go lose a race or sell the car or something, well, that may be a different story. But you're trying to do a good job like I try to do here. Yeah, you're going to always be chasing something towards the end, and it's just reality, and accept it. If you don't want to deal with it, just buy one of those shelf units or something. You don't want to wait, you don't want to do this, just buy something off the shelf from somebody. You know, that's all I can tell you there. But if you're looking for something unique and something of quality, this is kind of what it is. You know, you got to expect a little bit of chasing, and you know, things either don't fit or you're missing something, or you know, whatever it is. So anyways, I'm rambling on about this too much. You can tell I've been doing this for 20 years. So anyways, so here's what I tell you to do. Here's the way I would do it myself and the right way to do it. So this is a C6 I just tore down, and I, you know, haven't washed anything yet or anything. I'm just kind of looking and seeing what I need here. So basically, you're going to need an overhaul kit, and that's on our site. And that gives you all the gaskets and seals and the Teflon sealing rings. Our overhaul kit is designed for 76 and newer. The only difference in that kit primarily is going to be on your forward piston here for your forward clutch. These early ones took a square cut outer seal, or they call it lathe cut. My kit's got the lip seal style for the 76 and newer, so you're not going to have that piece in my kit if you have an early one. So I'm going to tell you the truth on that right there. I believe, if I remember correctly, everything else is going to be the same for all the other years. So first thing I tell everybody to do, I want a clutch count. You know, if you contact me and you say, hey, can you put something together for me? I know you don't have a kit, but can you just throw one together for me? Well, I'm happy to, but first thing I'm going to ask you, how many clutches in each pack do you have? Because this is important. Nobody wants to buy more clutches than they need or less clutches than they need. It's nice to have the right amount, and there's different thicknesses. So this is your low reverse, and when I say buy a clutch count, you're just going to look at this, and you know, if you've done this first time, there's things you don't know. So this is your steel plate, and this is your friction plate. So just count how many of these you have, okay? So I don't need to count the steels. I typically just count the frictions, because I know the number of steels in this pack is going to be the same as the frictions. So this has got 4. Of course, for what I'm building here, this is a trans brake unit, a lot of power. I want to have 5, so I'm gonna put 5 in it, and I need a stepped pressure plate. This is your pressure plate, the thick one. And unfortunately, I'm out of stock on these most of the time these days. For some reason, these stock plates have become hard to find. I guess nobody saved them. They're just all thrown away by now. So I don't know if I'll ever make them new. It's a lot of money. I'd have to make a ton of them. We never really sold enough of those to justify it. But maybe as these, you know, antique status just keeps going up on these, so maybe at some point we'll do that. Another thing, so here's your forward clutch, and if you don't know the names of these clutches and you're building this yourself, get some information. There's a lot of good information out there nowadays. I learned back in the day with the factory Ford manuals that had a transmission section, but there's good videos and things, and a guy by the name of Ken Collins has some great videos, and nice and slowly goes over all the details and changes and everything you got to know. Of course, there's free stuff on YouTube and things like that, but I do recommend, paying just a little bit of money for something like, a video from Ken Collins or somebody like that. So this is and I'm sorry, I think I said it was forward, but whatever. This is high gear, reverse high clutch. So we're going to count these frictions, and it's typically 3. Of course, I'm doing something different here, and I need a different drum and everything. And unfortunately, I don't have the drums too often anymore. Those have become a problem as well. All this stuff is getting just hard to find. So this is your forward. It's got this beveled plate on the bottom. And you also want to look at these plates too. This one, it's got some hot spots on it, but it's not bad. I'll check it for flatness. It's probably still fine. But sometimes these get really, really badly hot spotted and torn up, and you may need to replace them or resurface them or whatever you need to do. So this is something too. Even if you have a rebuild kit, it's not going to come with the pressure plates, and if the pressure plates are no good and you're this guy that's trying to build it Friday night for a race on Saturday or whatever you're doing, well, what are you going to do? Put crap, pressure plates in it? No, I don't like that, but whatever you want to do, this is your baby. So you count these. This is your forward. It's typically got pointy teeth, but the real early ones had a square tooth on it. They didn't have this. And I know they did it in 66. I don't know when they stopped doing that. It could have been 66 only. I'm not sure. I'd say definitely by 68 they went to these pointy teeth. And that's another thing. If you buy a rebuild kit, say it's supposed to fit 67 and on, or maybe it even says 66 and on, and turns out you don't have these friction plates, well, you're kind of screwed because these are not going to fit. So you just count these. This one's only got 3. I've got to replace this drum on that as well. So that's, that's something there. If you're building something for power like I am, and we've got a 3-clutch forward and a 3-clutch, I can't even machine it to hold 5 that I want. I can machine it to hold 4, but it won't go to 5. A 4 will go to a 5. So that's something there you may run into, and you may say, well, geez, I'm just going to spend the time and money and get another drum, which those aren't that easy to get anymore either. This one here, the direct drum, I used to sell these. Unfortunately, can't get the cores hardly anymore, so those have been out of stock for a long time, which really sucks, but is what it is. So this is a 3-clutch. Most of them are. Very rarely you run into a 4 or a 5, but so the 3, we sell a step pressure plate where you can put 4 in here. Those, I believe, are still available, and those I've had an easier time getting pressure plates for to machine. So you can do that, or this one here, because I have the ability, I'm going to remachine this snap ring groove in the drum, and I'm going to make it a 5. But so anyways, I think you're already kind of learning that maybe this isn't something you do in 5 minutes. So the other thing is bushings. And now, even when I sold a complete rebuild kit, I never gave a complete bushing set with it. And there's 2 reasons for that. The main reason I didn't is because most people don't have the tools to replace all the bushings. You really need the drivers and things, and you can try to do this with things around the shop, like put them in and out with, you can always take them out with a chisel or something. That's not really that hard because you don't care if you're damaging them, and you can do that. But if you're trying to put them back in, you have to find things to drive them in with, big sockets or just whatever you might have around. And a lot of people just don't have a set of drivers. So I figured if I made you pay for a bushing kit, you're not going to use most of them. It's a waste of money. So typically what I did is I included the one for the pump body, and here's the pump here. Okay, so I included this one. That one's typically a problem, and I took it off the bench already, but the one that goes inside the extension housing, if it's a two-wheel drive, that one there typically a lot of times needs replacing. So I would just give you those two, and the other ones were usually okay. For example, this direct drum, if you look at it, it's got a really big wide bushing here, and it's got there's a thin bushing here, but these bushings are almost never worn. Very rarely do I have to replace those, unless some metal went through it and scored them up. But very well supported piece, very just nice design on that. Ford did good on that one. So those typically don't ever wear unless there was an issue. It might have been an oiling issue or something. Who knows? Pretty rare, but anyways, so you just take your, you have bushings in your case that you need to check. This is the sun gear. You want to check, make sure these bushings are okay. And it's just pretty easy. I just take it and put it over the end of the shaft. And I apologize here, I only got one hand, but I just put it over the shaft here and try to wiggle it and see how tight it is. You don't want these super tight, because remember, this stuff heats up, and if you make it too tight, the bushings will gall and they'll spin, and you don't want that. So you don't want things super tight, and you got to be careful of that when you're putting new bushings in. A lot of times, and especially we're dealing with things, older transmissions, that they want to make all these things offshore now. Yeah, they don't. A lot of times they don't fit that good, and it's not unusual for me to have to hone them out because they're too tight. So, something to be aware of there too. You may put a bushing in, and man, it's too tight. What am I going to do? I don't have the means to hone this out. What I typically use is a little brake. Well, I have a lathe too, but what I use in some situations, and what you can do with minimal tools, is get one of those brake cylinder hones at the auto parts store, and I'll wrap a piece of sandpaper around it and staple it on. I'll show you that sometime, and that can open up your bushings and polish them a little bit, and that's kind of to be expected these days. I got to be honest with you. I used to have to do that very often 20 years ago, but these days it's almost more often than not, I'm afraid. So anyways, just now your thrust washers here. You'll want a set of selective thrust washers, which we try to carry. That's important because these come in different thicknesses to set your end play. So like this washer here is in great shape, but it might not be the right thickness, so we may not be able to use it. So your washers here, don't feel like you need to always replace these every time. This one here, this one's in great shape. And if you look, you see this little spot here that's kind of grayish looking. A lot of these came with like a Babbitt coating on them, which is like a dull silver, a gray look to them. And what will happen, and let's see, this one might be a better example. Yeah, this is your parking gear. This one's almost never worn. So see how it's splotchy looking? That's just that Babbitt coating worn off. Don't worry about this. This is perfectly fine. As far as I'm concerned, it's like new. You're not going to have an issue with this. So don't feel like you have to replace that necessarily. You can if you want to. This one here, this is in great shape. There's more Babbitt missing, but you don't really need that. I think that coating was really just there for break-in. But when you're using assembly lubes and things, I don't really think that that's necessary. I don't know if the factory put these together dry or what they did. I don't know. I don't know the reason for that. Maybe somebody else does. But that little Babbitt coating was very thin and doesn't stay on. So if you see it worn off or partially worn off and the washer's ugly looking because of it, don't throw it away. you can reuse that. Now, when you do replace thrust washers is when you see them, you'll see scoring in them, and they'll be rough. They'll have a radial ridge in them or ridges. If they're rough like that, then yes, you're going to replace it. If it's still smooth like this one is, I don't care if it's discolored or, just doesn't look real pretty because it's not one color, but if you feel ridges and things in it, that's when you're going to want to replace it. Other than that, you don't have to. And if you're doing things like bearing conversions and stuff like that, then, you may not need them. Here's another thing you need to check on these before you order parts. Here's your servo cover, and I don't know if you can see that. I'm getting a lot of sun in through this window. So see that letter there is a letter N. It's a large letter, and there's a lot of different ones. Now some of these, a lot of them had this type of piston. This here is, if you feel these lips on them, they're usually kind of hard. And when they're hard like this, they're no longer pliable. You're going to want to replace it. And you need to know that letter that's on this cover here. You need to know which letter is there so you can get the right piston. So that's important. Now, the older ones had replaceable seals. That's another thing that does not come in our overhaul kit, is if you have one of the early pistons with the replaceable seals, the seals for that will not be in our overhaul kit, unfortunately. So I forgot to mention that as well. The other thing, too, is the filter. If you're going back with a factory pan or you've got an aftermarket pan, whatever it is, there's a lot of different filters. So you need to see which filter you need. Because if I give you a rebuild kit, I don't want to send you 4 or 5 filters and then you throw the other ones away and you only use one. It's a waste of money. I'm sure you guys don't want that. So this stuff costs enough as it is. So that's another thing. See which filter you need. Here's some old modulators. These are screw-ins. So the old ones were threaded and they would screw in, and then the newer ones were held in with a clamp. I don't think I have one of those here to show you, but those I typically almost always replace unless it was a deal where I get a unit in that somebody else had rebuilt and had already replaced that. But I almost always, 98% of the time, have to replace that. So you got to know whether you have a screw in or a push in. Screw in, you only have one choice. If it's a push in, there's a green stripe, there's a purple stripe, and there's a black stripe. And you can go back with whatever you had originally. If it's a performance application, or you're just not sure what was there originally, or maybe it was missing, I typically just use a black stripe. That's on our site. That's kind of a popular item. So that's basically it. You've got your one-way clutch assembly that goes in here. We've got those. I pretty much always replace those. The springs tend to fatigue on them. The rollers are usually fine, but those will fatigue. So, and then also the obvious. You want to just make sure all the parts are good and reusable. And, because you may need hard parts as well. Just like I'm going to need a drum here for the forward. I have to replace this because it doesn't have enough clutches. The direct I can remachine. I'm fortunate I can do that. You'll need a band. And, you have different choices on the band. That's just kind of a preference thing. And then, just any other upgrades you might want to do. If you want to do bearing upgrades or things like that. Valve body, if you want to put a valve body kit in there of some sort or whatever, or you want to buy a valve body from us. So if you're going to buy a valve body from us or anybody else, here's what I want you to look at. This is the manual select valve. And see how this one just slides in and out? This is what they call a floating type. This one here is used 72 to 96. Most of them are like this. The real early ones, let's see what, no, that's a floating too. I don't have one here on the bench to show you, but the real early ones, it didn't just float like this. It had little detents in it, and it was spring loaded, so it would be hard to move. It would click in each position. So you need to know whether you have that or not. So that one is a 1966 to 71 roughly. And then this style is 72 to 96. So you'll need to know that before ordering a valve body if you choose to do that. And if you do have one of those early ones, like I was telling you with the clicker type, those have become a hard to get and expensive core. You may want to, if you're wanting a valve body from us, you may want to consider just sending that core into us to build that one, because that's going to save you some money. That thing has gotten to be pretty high dollar, and probably going to be even higher this year. I think we have to reevaluate that. I haven't even been able to find those in months, so that's a problem. Okay, I think I rambled on long enough here. I know she's trying to get me to keep these videos 10 minutes at the longest. I'm 26 minutes so far, but there's a lot here to cover, and I really very briefly went over it. So anyways, if you're wanting to rebuild this yourself, this is what you got to do. Do your tear down first, and then feel free to contact us for parts or whoever you want, whatever, and go from there. That's the best way to do it. And don't get this set in your head that you're going to be done this weekend or whatever your goal is. Just now, if you have done your homework, like I just showed you here, did the tear down, sat down, wrote a list of everything you need and all the year model changes that you can find and all that, yeah, you can probably get your stuff and get this done in a weekend, and that's how you do it there. And then you just get everything cleaned up while you're waiting for your parts to come in. So if that's your goal, but without doing this tear down and your homework here, it's very difficult, very difficult. Probably going to be compromising any other way. So I hope this helps you out, and I hope you understand why we eliminated the canned rebuild kit, if you will. And let me know in the comments if you think we should still do a rebuild kit like that. I'd like to hear some feedback on it. If enough people think that, well, man, this is really an injustice that you've done by getting rid of that kit, people still want it and we would buy it. And we understand there's no substitutes in it and there's no guarantees. Everything's covered. I mean, do the best I can, but so as long as you understand that, let me know what you think. And I don't want to badmouth other people's canned kits, but I just want you to be aware that you may still need some things. That's just reality of this, and that's why I don't like them. I don't buy canned kits, and I haven't bought canned kits for a lot of years, but I'm doing some specialized stuff here too, so I'm not just throwing a stock thing back together like it was. This here, with the drums and everything and not having enough clutches, I mean, if this is just a fairly stock unit, well, you don't care. 3 clutches and 3 clutches is fine in this unit. It's a big unit. It's got a lot of surface area. Don't get caught up in, I got to put an 8-pack in it. Yeah, you don't have to put an 8-pack in nothing in this unit. It's got a lot of size. 5 frictions is fantastic. So, it's all about the hydraulics. But okay, I'm going to end this here, and hope this helps you. And please make comments if you think we should do the kit, or if you even agree with me on the kit. Thanks for watching.